Okay, so hi, good evening everyone. So today what we'll be discussing is on the subject called subsurface exploration importance and techniques involved. I am Balram Shah, PMRF TA for this subject. So what I will be discussing in this discussion is uh, the assignments that you have to solve for every weeks. Before that, we'll be discussing about some of the questions, related questions about the videos that you have seen, the week lectures that has been provided to you. We'll be discussing some questions on that, and also if you have any doubts related to the lectures for the specific week, we'll be discussing about that. So feel free to ask any question in between, and if you have any doubt, please let me know. And I have to record this video again because the previous recording that we have done in the discussion, I lost the recording due to some technical issue, so I'm recording it again. So I'm Balram Shah. I'm PMRF TA for this course. I'm currently doing my PhD at ICVR department in at IISc Bangalore. So let's start the session. So before starting this session, the prerequisite for this subject is basic geotechnical engineering. As we have discussed, all of you are having some basic background from the geotechnical engineering. So before going into this subject, I will be just briefly discussing about what all we need to know. Anyway, you guys know about this, but simply I will take some 5 minutes for what we all need to know. Okay, so wait a minute. Hmm. I hope you can see the screen, right? Okay, and my audio is proper, right? Okay, so we'll move. So the prerequisite, sorry. So the prerequisite for the subject is basic geotechnical engineering. So what all we learned? Before doing the week 1 course, you have some prerequisite week 0 assignments. So I will not, in this discussion and all, I will not be discussing the current assignment, but I will give you some hints so that you can do the assignments properly, and I will suggest you to go through the video lectures properly so that you can have the grip in the subjects, and then you can come to this session so that if you have any doubt, we can clear here. Okay, so what all we have studies the index properties of the soil, the index properties of soil, in which we have one important thing like consistency. I hope you guys know about the consistency of soil. What is consistency of soil? So the consistency of the soil is simply the property of the soil with which the soil can be deformed with ease. Like how easily it can be deformed is termed as the consistency of the soil. So to know this consistency, so it is the property with which the soil can be deformed with ease, right? So to know this consistency, we have some consistency limits, and those limits were like known as the Atterberg's limit, right? What are the Atterberg's limit? You remember, like we had one plot between the volume of the soil, which is varying with respect to the water content, right? So it was moisture content or water content, whatever you say, and this side it was volume of the soil, right? So the curve goes like this, somewhat like this. So this is the volume of the solid soil. So this is the solid, then comes the semi-solid part. As the water content increases, what happens? The solid bit will change to semi-solid, then plastic, then liquid, and so on, right? So this is called the volume at the plastic limit, and this is called the volume at the liquid limit, right? So so this is the shrinkage limit, this is the plastic limit, and this is the liquid limit. What is liquid limit? Anyone? Okay, so the liquid limit, as we can see from the graph, it is the minimum water content at which the soil has a tendency to flow as a liquid, right? So the liquid limit is the maximum, sorry, the minimum water content at which the soil has a tendency to flow as a liquid. So after this liquid limit, what will happen? The soil has a tendency to flow as a liquid. So what we use for this liquid limit? We use the Cassegrain apparatus or one point method or cone penetration method to know the liquid limit. Okay, next one is what? Next one is the plastic limit. What is plastic limit? What you can see from the graph, from the plot you can see that plastic limit the plastic limit is the minimum water content at which the soil is in plastic state, right? And in the lab, how will we understand whether the soil has reached its plastic limit or not? So what we do, we use the soil, we take the soil with the water content that it has, we roll it into a thread, and when we roll it into the thread of 3 millimeters and it starts to crumble, that is some visible cracks appears in the soil, then we understand that the soil has reached its plastic limit. Okay, and similarly, what is shrinkage limit? What is shrinkage limit? From the plot, what we can see, the shrinkage limit is the maximum water content. See, it is the maximum water content at which further reduction, so what happens here? So it is the maximum water content at which the further reduction in water content will not cause a decrease in volume. So what will happen if we go below the shrinkage limit, like in this side, if we go, so what will happen? It will, okay, sorry. So what will happen? It will have no decrease in volume as it is in solid state. Okay, so these are some of the Atterberg's limit or the consistency limits that we have seen, right? And several index properties were there. Then we have studied about the permeability, soil moisture, right? Soil moisture, permeability. Then we also studied about compaction, consolidation of soil. Then we have studied about the shear strength of the soil, bearing capacity of the soil, then how we design the shallow foundation, deep foundation, then earth retaining structures, then stability of slopes and all. So these are the basic requirements for this course. If you have like you can once go through the all the basic geotechnical thing, and then we can start the lectures. Okay, so moving on to the our discussion. So the subject is, as we know, it is subsurface exploration importance and techniques involved. So what I am going to discuss is some of the assignment questions that I have made, and so that it will clear your understanding on the subject. And if you have any doubts, we can clear that. And there were some questions in the discussion forum that also I will discuss at the end. So be there. Okay. So, I hope you can see the screen, the slides. Okay. So what we are going to do is we will see some assignment questions, not the current one, like I have created some, so we'll see that. Okay. So prerequisite whatever is there we have seen. Now coming to the questions. So I will suggest you guys that before coming to this discussion forum, kindly go and see the video lectures. It will help you to understand this what is going on this discussion and all. Okay, so let's start. So the first question is, study in the form of a field trip to the site which can give information about the topography, geology, drainage pattern, vegetation and land use for subsurface investigation is known as. So the options are, sorry. So the options are preliminary investigation, detailed investigation, reconnaissance and none of the above. So as we can see in the question, what is there? It is the study in the form of field trip to the site which can give information about the topography, geology, drainage pattern, vegetation and land use for subsurface investigation. See, the first option is preliminary investigation, right? So in the preliminary investigation, what we do, in the preliminary investigation we have three kind of studies. So in preliminary investigation, what all we do, we do the reconnaissance survey, then we go for the study of maps, and then what we do the aerial photographs. So in the reconnaissance, what we do, in reconnaissance we study about the what is the topography, like whether that is the mountains are there, valleys or plains, hills, whatever. The geology, how is the geology of the site, then how the drainage pattern is there. So that comes under the reconnaissance. Okay, so for this question, the most applicable option is reconnaissance. See, this is obviously not the detailed investigation. So the correct answer for this question is the reconnaissance survey. Okay, let's move on to the next question. What is the next question? Okay, so the next question is, information regarding the floodplains, swamp areas and existing water bodies can be referred from. Wait a minute. Okay, sorry for the interruption. Where were we? Yeah. So the question was, information regarding the floodplains, swamp areas and existing water bodies can be referred from. The options are geomorphology maps, seismic atlas map, hydrogeological maps and isoseismic maps. Okay, so what do you think the answer will be? So we need to study the maps, and from there we should know like about the floodplains, the swamp areas, and the existing water bodies. What is first one? First one is the geomorphology maps. Okay, what is geomorphology? The geomorphology, simply it is the evolution of the landforms. If the map is providing you the information with the evolution of landform, let us say 10 years before it was having the plain, and due to some seismic activities or something, the landform has done its evolution, and it has, let us say now it is having hills or valleys or something. So the maps which is having the information about the evolution of the landform, or whatever landforms is there, what kind of geometry is there, that is called as geomorphological maps. Okay, next is the seismic atlas map. Seismic atlas map gives the seismicity of that. Next is the hydrogeological map. So in this question, what is there? It is floodplains, swamp areas, existing water bodies. So the most applicable answer for this question is hydrogeological maps. So what we can see, the hydrogeological maps will give you the information regarding the floodplains, the swamp areas, the existing water bodies, and others. Isoseismic maps, this will discuss in the later slides. So the answer for this question was the hydrogeological maps. Okay. Next question is dash is defined as the process of evolution of landforms available. This we have discussed in the last slide, right? So what is the which one of the option is defined as the process of evolution of landforms available? Obviously, it is the geomorphology. First one, geology, we know it is the study of the stratification, whatever rocks and soils and all are there. And then is the petrology. Petrology, we know, is the study of the rocks, right? So the answer for this question, that is the process of evolution of landforms, will be the geomorphology. So the correct answer is D. So the next question is what is this? Okay, what category of detailed subsurface investigation is primarily required for the mega structures such as dams, nuclear power plants, roads, constructions, etc.? Okay, so before moving on to this question, I will ask you a question. Like we are discussing about the subsurface exploration importance and techniques involved, right? So before that, we need to understand that why, like, what is the main aim or what is the objectives to understand, like, to do this subsurface exploration. Why we are doing this subsurface exploration? What do you think? Any guesses? Like first it is basic, right, that we need to understand what are the subsurface medium is there, like what kind of soil is there, whether it is clay, whether it is having some cohesionless soil, whether it is some rocks or something, or other than that, whether it is like it is filled up soil from somewhere, and it might be from some waste materials which has been dumped somewhere, and then it is filled with soil, and then we are going to do construction on that. So what we need to understand, we need to determine the nature of the subsurface medium. Okay, so what was I saying? So we need to understand the nature of the subsurface medium. Okay, next what will be the why we are doing subsurface exploration? There are several reasons that we are doing subsurface exploration and why this subject is important. Okay, next it can be like we need to understand the stratification, like below the ground surface, what all stratification is there, what all layer is there, which kind of layer is there, what type of soil is there, what is the thickness of each of the medium, what is the thickness of various subsurface strata, their depth, then there also their horizontal extent, right? And other than that, what is the most important is the depth of the groundwater table. Okay, so we need to understand that how is the depth of the how is the depth of the groundwater table, where is the groundwater table at specific location. Okay, how the fluctuations of the groundwater table and groundwater level is there, what is the probable fluctuations of the groundwater table, because it is one of the main factor which will which will help us understand what type of structures we can build there, and what all we have to do, what we have to not do in the construction sites. Okay. Other than that, what all can be there? It can be like underground seepage or erosion in case of deeper excavation, right? We know that, let us say, what to say, okay, let us say in the dams. Okay, in the dams, what we know, there can be piping failure. What is piping failure? So there can be erosion on the bed of the dam. Okay, so from that we can have the piping failure. So we need to understand what all type of erosion is happening, or what all type of seepage will be happening from that type of soil, right? And then we have to understand that how is the composition of the groundwater. So how is the composition of the groundwater? Whether the composition of the groundwater means what? Like what all is there in the groundwater? The groundwater can have some chemicals or some contamination in it, right, which can compromise the safety of the foundation or the structures that we are going to build. So we need to understand that whether there is any contamination in the groundwater or something like that. Then other than that, what we think, we can have the strength characteristics, right? How is this, whether that soil is having rocks or something, so that we can understand that whether what is the strength characteristics of that type of soil, that type of rock layers, because we need to do the foundation, right? So if you don't know what is the depth of the layers and all, and we have to have some depth of interest for us so that we can build the foundation there, right? Or let us say nowadays we have several mega structures where we have to go 2 to 3 stories below the ground surface. Okay, so we need to understand, based on our depth of interest, what are the strength characteristics of the various soil layers or the rock layers. Okay. Other than that, why do we do the subsurface exploration? We also need to understand that what are the possible challenges that may arise during the actual construction of the foundation. And so after doing the detailed investigation, we can have some idea that okay, this all possible challenges can be there in near future. While we are doing construction, this can be the possible challenges which we are going to face. So after doing these investigations, after doing the exploration, what we can do, we can be prepared with some of the options, some of the remedial options. Okay. So for the subsurface exploration is not only for the understanding all the mediums, understanding what all groundwater table is there, but also to give solution in case there is some distress, okay, in the construction site or in the region of interest. Okay. Other than that, one important aspect of this subsurface exploration is the safety of the adjoining structure. Let us say that there are several adjoining structures. Okay, nowadays we have urban areas and we are going to build some structure in the vicinity of that area. So what will happen? Our construction, okay, our construction should not hamper the other adjoining structures. Okay, it can cause legal issues. What do you mean by legal issues here? See, because of the construction that we are going to do, so like our our structure consideration, it might lead, let us say in surrounding areas there are some construction going on. Okay, and again we are also doing some construction. Okay, so due to vibration, due to excavation, due to pile diving and all, there should be no harm to the other structure. Let us say one example, in West Bengal in around 2018 or 2019, there one bridge called Majarhat Bridge collapsed. Okay, there were several reasons for that, but one of the main reasons that they have given was the vibrations that were coming from the nearest, just near to the bridge. There was one metro construction going on. It's still going on, I guess. Okay, so because of that metro construction, there were several vibrations in the bridge, because of which the bridge collapsed. That was one of the reason that they have gave. So what we understand from this, that we have to have a detailed investigation, or we have to have the proper investigation about the adjoining structures, whatever constructions is going on near that, whether that will affect whether that will affect our construction, or our construction, if we are doing some construction, that should not lead to harm, that should not harm the other adjoining structures. Otherwise we can face legal issues, or some other legal issues may arise. Okay, other than these, what all can be the aim for this subsurface exploration? See, we have to identify what are the problematic medium. Let us say we know about the black cotton soil, right? The soil which is very applicable for the growing cotton and all. But what we know is it is kind of expansive soil. It is, if we can't do mega structures on the black cotton soil type, right? So like that we have to understand whether the soil is expansive soil, whether there is negative skin friction, whether it will be a problem for the a deep foundation at the site of interest, which is to be given very due importance. Okay. Other than this, it can be like, in case the rock medium to be used as the construction material, the extent of the excavation, its depth, the strength characteristics, all of this to be known. So to have proper construction, okay, so that the construction can go smoothly and within the time, we have to have the detailed investigation, or the investigation whatever is necessary, the subsurface exploration for the proper construction of the structure. Okay. Okay, so where we were discussing some of the questions, right? We'll move to that. Before that, I hope you can see the screen, right? Okay, so what we discussed was why subsurface exploration. So in short I will write, so determination of, sorry, subsurface medium, the type of soil, whether it is filled up soil or some construction waste and all. Okay, next the thickness, the depth, or the horizontal extent of the subsurface strata or layer, whatever you say. Okay, then what, the groundwater table and its fluctuation, how it is varying, right? Then we discussed about the legal issues from the adjoining. So what we need to do, we need to be concerned about the safety of adjoining structures, right? Whether there is any contamination in the groundwater, to provide solutions in case of any distress, and several other points we have discussed, right? Okay. Okay, So now we'll move on to the questions that we're discussing. Okay. Okay. The question was, what category of detailed subsurface investigation is primarily required for the mega structures such as dams, nuclear power plants, road construction, and all? So the options are investigation with the purpose of looking for the surface of sources of construction materials, investigation to ensure the safety of adjoining structures, investigations of failures or defects for existing structures, or none of the above. See, first of all, in the question, what we see is primarily required for the mega structures. For mega structures such as dams, nuclear power plants, road construction, and all. So, first of all, we are going for construction. So, what do you think will be the answer? First of all, these dams, nuclear power plants construction, we go for the adjoining structure, safety of adjoining structure, the failure defects of the existing structure. But before that, for new projects like dams, nuclear power plants, road construction, and all, what we look for is the main sources of construction materials, whether the construction materials are of good quality and quantity, whether that is accessible, whether it is found near the site that we are going to construct, so that the project should be economical, right? So the main and the correct answer, or the most applicable answer for this question, will be the investigation with the purpose of looking for the sources of construction materials. So the answer will be E. Okay. Next, we'll move. The question is, guidelines regarding the depth of exploration and spacing of boreholes for dams can be found in. So we need to know the depth, like some guidelines for the depth of exploration and spacing of boreholes for the dams. So the answer for this will be, see, IS code. When you use it, you refer it several times, you will learn it. Okay, so the guidelines for the depth of exploration and the spacing of boreholes for dams is given in which IS code? Yeah, correct. So it will be in IS 1892 1979. So the sorry, okay, for dams it is, right. So for dams it will be in IS 6955 1973. So the next question is, for which of the following projects investigation of the flow characteristics is must? Okay, so investigation of the flow characteristics in the sense, okay, let us see the options first. The question is road construction, sorry, options is are road construction, earthen dams, buildings, and none of the above. So the question says investigation of the flow characteristics. What do you think? Which investigation for any of the any type of flow characteristic will be applicable in which kind of which kind of construction? In case of road construction, let us say, so in case of road construction, what we see, the flow characteristics is not that important. But in case of earthen dams, see, earthen dams will be there just near to some kind of water structure, right? So for that, for the earthen dams construction, we have to have the investigation of the flow characteristics of the river, of the sea, the ocean, whatever we are trying to teach. Okay, so the answer for this question will be the earthen dams. Okay, so what we know after doing the preliminary investigation, okay, uh, preliminary investigation in the preliminary investigation, what we have seen, okay, we'll be discussing that first. Let us see. Okay. Okay. So before, like in subsurface exploration, the first work that we do is the preliminary investigations, right? So for any project that we are going to do, what we see, we have to choose the final site first. Like we have some alternative site, that okay, then these are the sites that we can use for our construction. Okay, but for the choice of the final site, we have several constraints, like what type of project is there, whether we are going to construct mega structures, what is the economy or the economical condition, or how much money we can incur for the structure, then the geology, the ecology, the politics also form have some role, then alignments of the plane and all. Several constraints are there for the choice of the final site. Okay, so for that, what we need to do is, firstly we have to go for preliminary investigation. So in preliminary investigation, what we do, we have three investigations that we have to do. The first one is the reconnaissance that we have discussed in the first question, I guess. First one is the reconnaissance, right? So why this preliminary investigation is required? It is required to understand whether the site is suitable for the project that we have proposed, on the basis of all whatever existing information is there. From the existing information or the data that we have, from that only we will do the investigation, right? So uh, the data or the information that we have, using that we'll first we'll understand whether this site is suitable for our construction or not. So this type of investigation is called preliminary investigation. And after that, we need to understand whether after choosing a site, or 2 3, or reducing the number of sites or number of alternatives to few, then we will go for detailed investigation, whether this because in the detailed investigation we have to incur some cost that will be somewhat expensive than this preliminary investigation. So that's why what we do, we have to do the preliminary investigation first. So in preliminary investigation, we have to do reconnaissance survey, then we have to study the maps, and then the aerial photography. Nowadays aerial photography, for the big projects, we have the satellite data, and also we go for remote sensing and satellite images, and then we can analyze easily, right? Okay, so uh, so what we have discussed, okay, so let us say in the preliminary investigation we saw that this site is unsuitable for our project. So what we'll do, we'll stop the investigation further for that site. Okay, so whatever some alternatives will be left, like we have, let us say 4 5 sites for us, that here all of these sites we can do the construction. So but before that, we have to go for preliminary investigation. And after preliminary investigation, we saw that two of the sites are unsuitable for this construction. Okay, so now we will just reject those sites, and we'll only move on to with the three remaining sites that we have, and on that we'll do detailed investigation if required, and then we will go for the like we'll ensure that okay, this site is proper for the construction. Okay, so in reconnaissance, what we see in the first question only, we have seen that reconnaissance survey, what we do, we understand what is the topography in the terms of elevation, what are the is there mountains, hills, plains, valleys and all. Okay, the topography we understand the geology means what are the deposits or the subsurface strata and all. So this we can see by the Geological Survey of India gives the study the maps for this. Okay, then we understand the drainage pattern, what are the vegetations that are there, because vegetation will play an important role, right? What are the land use, whether it is forest, whether it is agricultural land, whether it is urban area, or whether it is a barren land, like that. Okay, so in the reconnaissance survey we have to go for all this. So what is the main why we are doing this reconnaissance survey? This reconnaissance survey will help us in understanding about the soil type, the groundwater table condition. Okay, all these things to test the feasibility of the site, and also to plan for the further investigation. So this reconnaissance survey simply depend on the project type. Next is the study of maps. In the study of maps, we get the information about the surface and the subsurface conditions that are available in the forms of maps. Okay, so we studied about geomorphological maps. Then what to write? We study about the geomorphological maps, then hydrogeological maps, then isoseismic maps. Several based on the projects, what we'll select our maps, which maps we need to study, and then based on that we can give some information, right? So what we have studied that hydrogeological maps give about gives us information about the flood plains, the alluvial plains, the swamp areas, existing water bodies, the soil type, etc. You know. So we need to know that this type of maps are available before going to the analysis, right? Because it will help us understanding in the construction site better, and um, uh, we can give some better alternatives for our construction. And last one is the aerial photography. So in for survey of relatively larger area, we use the aerial photography, the satellites and all. So with this we understand the topography, the drainage patterns, the details on the erosion, deposition, then sinkholes, all that things we understand from the aerial photography. Okay, now after doing this preliminary investigation, we understood, okay, these sites are eligible for our construction. Okay, we have completed our preliminary investigation. We know that what is the accessibility of the site. We know about the availability of the construction materials and all. So after all this, what we'll do, we'll go for in situ detailed investigation. And this in detailed investigation, again, it is subdivided into four type of classification. Okay, so that we'll be discussing, but before that, let us do some questions. Okay, this question we have completed. Next question is the guidelines regarding the depth of exploration and spacing of boreholes for multi-storied building can be found in the IS 1892 1979, right? So the correct answer for this question is 1892 1979 IS code. Okay, so what we have seen, depth of exploration and spacing of boreholes for dams was IS 6955 1973, right? And for multi-storied building it is IS 1892 1979. Okay, what do you think this IS? Okay, it will be there in the next question. Okay, so the IS 5878 1972 part 3 is a code of practice for, your options are underground excavation in the soft strata for multi-storied building. So we have seen in the last question itself that for the underground excavation in the soft strata for multi-storied buildings we use the IS 1892, right? Next is the underground excavation in soft strata for construction of tunnels conveying water. Uh, what is the IS code for the construction of tunnels conveying water, to understand the underground excavation in soft strata? Anyone? It is IS 5878, right? So for the question was IS 5878 1972 part 3, right? So this code we use for the understanding or knowing about the codal provision. What is the codal provision for the underground excavation in the soft strata for the construction of tunnels conveying water? Next is, so the answer for this question is the second one, but let us see what all other options are there. Third option is underground excavation in soft strata for the construction of port and harbor conveying water. Okay, so for ports and harbors, what will be the IS code? The IS code is 4651 1974. See in this question, the third one that you can see, the IS 4651 1974 part 1 is the codal provision to understand the about the construction of port and harbor conveying water. The construction of dams we have seen in the previous slides, right? So correct answer is B. For the construction of tunnels, we use the IS 5878 1972 part 3. Okay. Okay. We have discussed about the preliminary investigation. So what in the question is, which of the following is not a preliminary investigation? Okay. So the first one is the study of topography, geology and vegetation. Second one is the groundwater table determination from wells. Third is the map study to find out the information about the faults, folds, fissures, etc. Then is the finding the reason for the occurrence of failure during the construction. Okay. So what do you think answer will be? See the first option, that this is the study of topography, geology and vegetation. That comes under the reconnaissance survey, right? So that is one kind of preliminary investigation. That is not the correct answer. Map study is there in the third option. That is one kind of preliminary investigation. Again, finding the reason for the occurrence of failure during construction. It is one kind of detailed investigation. Sorry, finding. Okay. Oh, sorry. Finding the reason for the occurrence of failure. It will also come into the reconnaissance survey. So the groundwater table determination from wells will be okay. Sorry. Okay. The finding the reason for the occurrence of failure for during construction, it will come under the detailed investigation. So that will be the correct answer. The groundwater table determination from wells also we will do in the reconnaissance survey, right? Or we can go for the study of maps given by the several agencies like CGWB, the Central Groundwater Board, will give you the groundwater table determination from the wells. So that is one kind of preliminary investigation. So the correct answer for this question will be finding the reason for the occurrence of failure during the construction. There can be several reasons, right? Like there is some adjoining structure where the not the adjoining structure, there are some construction going on in the vicinity of the site that we are choosing. Okay, so because of the vibration, because of the pile driving there, we can have some failure here. Now, what do you think the main failure for any structure on the foundation is what? It can be because of shearing failure, or it can be because of the settlement failure. The settlement failure can be the differential settlement, total settlement, whatever. Okay, so we have to know the bearing capacity of the soil. Why at what is the bearing capacity of the soil, what kind of differential or total settlement will be there at some kind of load. Okay, that will come under detailed investigation. So other than that, it can be land subsidence. Do you know about land subsidence? Okay, we'll discuss about the land subsidence first. What is that? Simple. Okay, so land subsidence, it can be due to several reasons. It can be due to mining and all. One of the main reason for that is the groundwater extraction. Okay, so in some areas, what we see is in some part of India also we have land subsidence. Like recently, the case of Uttarakhand, the Joshimath, you remember, right? There we have one kind of land subsidence, right? So what will happen? The subsidence spreading, I'm not sure. Okay. So what will happen due to the, let us say this is the ground surface. Okay, and let us say at this point a huge number of water is getting extracted. Okay, so what will happen? Let us say before this, before the extraction of the water, the groundwater table was here. Okay, so what will happen? What we are doing, we are extracting water from here, right? Sorry, we are extracting water from here. So what will happen? Some kind of this curve will be there, right? Okay, so we are extracting water from there. So what will happen if we extract a much quantity of water? What will happen? See, the adjoining areas, the adjoining land will be deforming like this. So here what will happen at this point, the this land is subsidizing, right? So this process or this phenomena is called the land subsidence. So it can also lead to failure, right? Let us say we are constructing, we are having some construction at this point. Okay, so if groundwater extraction is there in the near vicinity, then what will happen? Land subsidence will happen, and that will affect largely on our construction, right? So that can be one case where we can have failure. So for all this, we have to go for the detailed investigation. Okay. Okay, let's move on to the next question. This we have seen what is the preliminary investigation, right? Okay. Next is the which of the following classification of subsurface investigation deals with collecting information for planning, choice of foundation, and equipment to be used. Okay, your options are investigation of new projects, investigation of defects in existing structures, preliminary investigation, or detailed investigation. Okay, so what we think the answer will be? So the question is which of the following classification of subsurface investigation deals with the only the collecting information for planning, choice of foundation, and equipment to be used, right? So what will be the answer? See, preliminary investigation will not be the answer because we have already understood that what are like why we do the preliminary investigation. That is not for just for selection of the site and all, right? So what do you think the answer will be? Okay. See, detailed investigation. In detailed investigation, we do all kind of investigation. In preliminary investigation, we know we what it will not be the correct option in this. Detailed investigation, we do all kind of investigation. Whatever the thickness is there for the strata, whatever is the depth, the number table, everything, right? So investigation of defects in existing structure. Okay, so that is not the correct option because we have to go for planning, choice of foundation. So this planning, choice of foundation we have to do for the new projects, right? What kind of equipments we are going to use, we are how we are planning to do the construction, what kind of foundation is applicable for that. So for the investigation of new projects we do this kind of we collect this kind of information. The correct answer will be the investigation of the new projects. Okay. Next question is what leads to the selection of an uneconomical location? The options are insufficient preliminary site investigation, insufficient number of tests, insufficient type of tests, and all of the above. Okay, so what do you think the answer will be? See, if your answer is all of the above, it's not the correct because see, uh, we will go for uneconomical location only when if we do not do the preliminary site investigation properly. Why? Because see, if we do the preliminary site investigation properly, we'll obviously reject the probable sites which are having some failures or some kind of uh, any problem that they will give. So the number of tests, the type of test, what when we'll do during the detailed investigation. Okay, so before in detailed investigation anyway, we'll go for this tests and all. So, but before that, the preliminary site investigation is very much necessary. Okay, that will make us make our um, construction site economical. Okay, right. So if we do proper preliminary site investigation, it will be a economical thing. But if we do not do it properly, we'll go for uneconomical location, right? So the correct option for this question will be the insufficient preliminary site investigation. Okay. Next is the which of the following is false for preliminary investigation. As now you know very much about the preliminary investigation, this answer you can simply give easily give, right? So the options are preliminary investigation preliminary investigation is done before the detailed investigation. Obviously it is true, we have to do the preliminary investigation before the detailed investigation. So next is the preliminary investigation helps in selecting suitable location for mega project. That also we have seen that for mega project, if we want to select the most suitable location, we have to go for preliminary investigation. Third one is the preliminary investigation is less costly. Obviously it is somewhat, it will incur some expenses, but if you compare with the detailed investigation, obviously it is very less costly, right? It is very cheap. Next is there are multiple field tests available which help in preliminary investigation. See, the multiple field test, what when we do when we know after doing the preliminary investigation, when we want to know the site in detail, then only we go for the multiple field tests, right? So the last option is not true for preliminary investigation. So the answer for this question will be D. Okay, let's move on to the next question. Which of the following agency provides information regarding the tube wells in India? I have discussed in some previous slides, right, that for tube wells in India, which agency will provide the information? Okay, so your options are Central Groundwater Board, Geological Survey of India, Indian Space Research Organization, and National Water Development Agency. So the answer for this question will be CGWB, that is Central Groundwater Board. Okay. The Geological Survey of India, what it will give? It will give the seismic atlas map, what is the geology of that site, okay, some this type of maps. And the NWDA, it will also give the isoseismal maps and all, right? So the correct answer for this will be A, Central Groundwater Board. See, this discussion, you are seeing the recording, right? So you'll not understand. I want the interaction between us, because don't want this session to be boring. Okay, so kindly join the discussion session. It will be interacting, and we all can discuss among each other, and then only we can get the doubts. Okay, and before that, you go and see the video lecture so that you can have some doubts. Like if you have some doubts, we'll interact and we'll discuss. Okay, okay, it's fine. We'll go to the next question. The next question is, active faults and lineaments in a particular region can be obtained from: first is the isoseismal map, second is the seismic zonation map, third is the seismotectonic atlas map, and all of the above. So what do you think the answer will be for this question? The active faults, the lineaments in a particular region can be obtained from the seismotectonic atlas map. Okay, from the seismotectonic atlas map we can understand the active faults and lineaments. You all know about the what is faults, fissures, and all, right? So the correct answer for this will be the seismotectonic atlas map. Okay, so after preliminary investigation, what we have seen, that we have to go for the detailed investigation. Okay, so we'll see the detailed investigation somewhat. Okay, so after we have completed our preliminary investigation, and then we understood what is the accessibility of the site, whether the construction materials are available nearby or not. After that we go for detailed investigation, and depending on the purpose, like depending on the type of project, depending on the complexity involved, then depending on its location, depending on what kind of details we are looking for, we divide this detailed investigation into several classification. Okay, so classification of the subsurface investigations. So what I said, that why we are classifying the subsurface investigation. The subsurface investigation we are classifying based on like depending on the purpose, depending on the what type of project we are looking for, then what are the complexity that are involved for the construction, then what is the sorry, then it's location, what kinds of details you are looking for. Based on that we are classifying the detailed investigation for the subsurface investigations, right? So what all classification there? First one, as we have seen, investigation of new project. Okay, let us say we want to create a new mega structure such as dams, nuclear power plants or something. So for that we have to investigate several other facts, like let us say we have to understand all the soils data, and then we have to plan the what will be the depth of foundation, what kind of foundation we are going to use, and then several other things, right? uh, Similarly, if we go for the investigation of defects or failures in case of existing structures, right? Let us say we have some existing structure and we are going to do some renovation or something on that. Okay, so what we have to understand, that this existing structure, whether there is any defects or any failure that has happened in the past for this existing structure. If something has happened, let us say we are going to construct a site for new projects only. If we see we want to create some dams or something. Okay, so what we'll see, we'll investigate whether there is some failure that has happened, any natural hazards that has happened in past, so that we can have the knowledge that okay, this will come in the preliminary investigation. So what we'll see, we'll see whether there is any failures that has happened in the past, whether there was some seismic activity, some earthquakes or some floods that has happened to the site, so that we can like plan accordingly, right? So similarly, in the detailed investigation we can also go for the investigation of defects, failures in some case of some existing structure. Okay, next one is the investigation to ensure the safety of adjoining structures. Okay, this we have discussed previously. And then we have the investigations with the purpose of looking for suitable construction material source. Okay, so the fourth is the investigation with the purpose of looking for suitable construction material source, right? So we have to understand whether the construction material that we require for mega projects, like for mega projects we need a bulk amount or like a huge quantity of construction materials. So we have to have the investigation whether the construction material that we need is available very near to the construction site. Okay, so that we can have the easy accessibility of the construction, as well as it will be economical for the project. Plus whether the construction material that we are going to use is having the quality and is having the proper quality or quantity that we want, because we can't use any construction material, like we, even if we have some construction materials, we have to do the quality checking for that, right? So for that also we need to do the investigation, right? Now let us say for the investigation of new projects, if we say, let us say for investigation of new projects. See, investigation of new projects, we'll do some new projects on some plain site, right? So in this case, it is simply the virgin ground. There nothing is there. So this investigation is wider in scope and like what type of project, on what size of the project we are going to do. So based on that, this investigation is a very wider in scope. So why we do this? Why we go for investigation of new projects? See, this investigation of new project helps on helps in helps in understanding the site. Okay, so it helps in understanding the site for the for what kind of foundation, so that we can design the foundation properly to handle any challenging situation, then to forecast difficulties that are possible in the future, or like when we are doing the construction. So for this we have to do the investigation of the new projects. Okay, and so sorry let us say what kind of some examples if we give. Okay, so it can be like what we have seen that one investigation of new projects example, we have seen that it was the investigation of the flow characteristics, like for the earthen dams we have seen, right? So for earthen dams we have to have the flow characteristic. Let us say whether there is any water level fluctuations in the area. Okay, if there is water level fluctuations, then it will affect the earthen dams, right? So for that we have to have the investigation for that. Then let us say dynamic characterization of subsoil medium in case of vibration. Let us say some vibration is there. Okay, so we have to understand what type of dynamic behavior of the soil is there because of the some kind of excitement, like let us say blasting is there, or some seismic activity, or any other source is there, or with the zone of influence. For that we need to understand what is the dynamic characterization of the soil and all, right? Then what all new projects we can have, it can be like for groundwater. Okay, we need to understand what kind of contamination is there. So for that, what we need to do, what kind of investigation we have to do, we have to go for the chemical analysis of the groundwater contamination. Yeah, let us say because of the waste of dumping, dumping of waste, sorry. So because of the dumping of waste, release of chemical waste from some industries and all, the groundwater will be contaminated, right? So this if we have some contaminated groundwater, that can severely affect the foundation. So for that we have to do the chemical analysis of the groundwater contamination. Then in case of excavation below the groundwater table, let us say we know the groundwater table, we know at this level the groundwater table is there. Okay, now as I said before that nowadays we have to go for 2-3 storage below the ground surface, and let us say that groundwater table is here and we have to go below that. Okay, below that groundwater table to construct our some kind of structures. Okay, so what we'll do, we have to do the dewatering. Okay, we have to extract water from there so that we can have the structures ready there. So we have the requirement for dewatering. All this kind of investigation will come under the investigation of new projects. Okay, so this helps us furnish enough details for planning, choice of foundation, equipment to be used, right? Similarly, what we go for is the investigation of the defects or failures in case of, where is investigation of defects or failures in case of existing structure. Defects or failures in case of existing structures. So what it will help, it will help us in giving some remedial measures for the any kind of failure, right? So it will help us understanding whether the actual defect, see, actual defect can lie in different aspects. Let us say while designing the foundation we have to have some data. There are some errors in the data interpretation itself. So if there are some data error in the data interpretation itself, the whole design found no, the whole design of the foundation, the execution process will lead to some defects or failures, right? So for that we have to have the understanding that whether the defects or failures lies in the data interpretation, or it can be, let us say the data interpretation is correct, but we have some errors in the design of the foundation that can also lead to some failures. Or if we are doing some mistake in the construction and during the execution of the construction, that can also lead to some failure. Okay, so this kind of investigation we have to do for this. Okay, so this let us say if data interpretation is not correct, what will happen? We will either under predict or over predict the design, right? So failures due to error in data interpretation, then design or execution, right? So it will help us give some remedial measures, right? Also let us say in design, as I said, in design what we can do is let us say we have some assumptions, right? We are assuming that we are simply doing the interpolation of 2 points. Let us say we have 2 points. Okay, we know the soil characteristic between the 2 points or the two locations. Let us say these are the two locations. Okay, and we have the data for this point and we have the data for this point. So we have the soil characteristics data for these 2 points, and we want to know somewhere between this. Okay, so what we do, we assume that it will go that like that, and we do simple interpolation for the soil characteristic profile, and that can also lead to some design problem, right? So that kind of assumptions or the material characterizations, the deformation forecasting, those things also can lead to failure. Okay, if there is some change in groundwater condition, say some change in land use, climatic behavior, okay, all this will lead to some kind of failures for the existing structure. So that also we have to investigate. Okay, so if we know that what kind of failure is happening, we can also we can also deal with the legal issues, right? Simply. Okay, okay, so we'll do some questions again and then we'll move. Okay, this question we have seen. Next is the isoseismal map is used to show lines of. See, from the word we can see that it is iso, this means there will be something equal, right? So the isoseismal map is used to show lines of what? What do you think? So isoseismal map is the map which will uh, see the isoseismal means which will isoseismal line, if you say the isoseismal line is the line which will join all the points having the equal seismic intensity. Okay, equal seismic intensity, if you join all the lines with equal seismic intensity, we will get the isoseismal line. And the isoseismal map is the just the like we have several isoseismal line in in the form of contours. Okay, and so the isoseismal map will show the lines of or the contours of equal seismic intensity. Okay, so the correct answer for this will be the equal seismic intensity. Okay. Okay. So there was one question in the last discussion that what is seismic intensity and what is seismic magnitude. Like um, this was the question, right? So what is the seismic intensity? The seismic intensity will characterize the severity of the earthquake. Let us say some seismic activities has happened at a given location, okay, such as resulting from the earthquake. So what will happen? It will be seen on the seismic magnitude scale or Richter scale, which means that the seismic magnitude is the value or the magnitude of the overall strength of the earthquake, okay, which may or may perhaps may not cause some what to say, some shakes and all. Okay, so what is seismic intensity? The seismic intensity is the measure of the effects of the earthquake, okay, and is distinct from earthquake magnitude scales. Okay, so we'll have one foci. So it what will happen, intensity is what, intensity is like some magnitude with respect to time, right? Or seismic magnitude by time. So what will happen, we have a foci, right? So this is the source of the earthquake, let us say. So what will happen from there, the seismic magnitude we can cover on this seismic Richter scale or something. Okay, now what will happen, these waves will be traveling to some location. Now at this location we'll get the seismic intensity or the seismic magnitude. So simply the seismic intensity is the scale that measures the effect of the earthquake. Okay. Okay. Next, move on. Next question is, which of the following is not classified as detailed subsurface investigation? Okay. So the first option, that is investigation of new projects. Anyway, we have seen that it is under the classification of detailed subsurface investigation. Okay. Investigation of groundwater table, investigation of defects or failures in case of existing structures, and then investigation to ensure safety of adjoining structure. So as we have discussed that the answer for this will be, we know that investigation of groundwater table, because groundwater table we can get from the maps or the CGWB data that we have, right? So from there we can get this, and that will come under the preliminary investigation. So the answer for this, which is not classified as detailed investigation, is the investigation of groundwater table. The last option, that is the investigation to ensure safety of adjoining structure. What we do in this, let us say um, uh, we have some adjoining structure. Okay, we have some adjoining structures. Okay, now we have to go for new construction. Okay, let us say if the site or if the soil is properly labeled. Okay, let me write it here. See, right? Okay. So next one was investigation to ensure safety of adjoining structure. Okay, so what I was saying, yeah, let us say if the soil or the site is properly labeled, particularly for a mega structure, then let us say there can be some structures like chemical factory, pharmaceutical industries, automobile industry, then hospitals, etc. There can be several adjoining structures, right? Let us, I'm just give an example. Okay, so for our construction, these utility buildings, like what I said, pharmaceutical buildings, hospitals, schools, whatever is there, these utility building are not going to face any issue, because we know that those are the structures beforehand, and if we are having some construction which will harm there, then we can face some legal issues, right? So often the site that are surrounded by buildings or infrastructure, we have some lesser choices available for the sites. Okay, so we have to ensure the safety of adjoining structures, and then with that consideration in our mind, we have to go for the site selection. Okay, next is okay, so sometimes like equipments what we are using, equipments, any like what type of machinery we are using, if there is any pile driving, then some operation requirements that can also lead to the this safety, sorry, that can also lead to the safety consideration of the adjoining structure. Okay, so what all will be considered? Let us say there are too much vibration due to, okay, I will write due to too much vibrations due to construction or piling, let us say. Okay, leading to it can lead to the cracks in the adjoining structure. Then let us say we are doing deep excavation. Okay, so due to deep excavation, we can have some deformation. Okay, or we can have some differential settlement, some total settlement. When we are pumping land, some sediments can occur. Okay, and then there can be several de-stress because of the groundwater and all, right? So this will lead to the adjoining structures safety okay, or let us say we have some underground utilities. Okay, let us say we have some pipe beforehand, and now we are doing excavation, and it can lead, like it can be possible that while doing the excavation we have like uh, there were some pipes and we didn't know that. So and we have done excavation there, it can lead to pipe failure, right? So like this kind of thing will lead to the, so the safety of that structure, that pipe has gone, right? So that can let us face some legal issues. So for that we have to have the investigations that what all adjoining structures are there, so that we can ensure the safety of those structures, and then we can go for our construction. Okay, and last one was the, last one was the investigations with purpose of looking for suitable construction material source. Okay, yeah, so let us say in case of some concreting of some mega structures such as dams, nuclear power plants, road construction and all, what we'll do, we'll see where very like large amount of aggregate is required. Other than that we need quarries also. So whether that is accessible or not, whether we are getting the suitable construction material, whether the quality and quantity of the material available is proper or not. Let us say in case of earthwork, we have to go for borrow pits, right? So whether that we can do that or not. Okay, whether the rocks that we are going to use, it is having the target strength or not. That type of thing we have to see in the, in this kind of investigation. Okay, quality and quantity of materials. Then also we have, nowadays we have to go for the environmental impact assessment, whether it is going to impact the environment, if it is, then how and all. Okay, assessment and all. Okay, so we are doing some question, let us see the questions again. Okay, this is the last question I have, I guess. Okay, so what was the question? Okay, which of the following is not classified as detailed subsurface investigation? So as we have seen, the investigation of groundwater table comes under the preliminary investigation only. So the correct option will be B for this. Okay, these are the questions that I wanted to discuss. Okay, so I'll suggest you guys to go through the video lectures. Okay. Wait, something more. So I suggest you guys to go to the video lectures before coming to the discussion, and I will suggest you to come to the discussion because it will be a interacting session. We all can discuss together. It will not be like class or session, so that we should not feel bored, right? So we'll have the discussion every Monday at 6 o'clock, at this link only. Before that, there were some questions that were there in the discussion forum. One question was like, the IS code is not giving the number of boreholes for the structure, but it's not the case. I have replied to that question also, but I will show you once again. IS 1892, let us say. Okay. Let it get downloaded. Okay. So IS 1892 was for the multi-story building, remember, right? Okay, so where will we? Yeah, there. See here, if you read, let us say for a compact, here, for a compact building site covering an area of about 0.4 hectare, one borehole or trial pit in each corner and one in the center should be adequate. So here see, minimum number of boreholes they are saying. Again, for smaller and less important buildings, even one borehole or trial pit in the center will suffice. For very large areas covering industrial and residential colonies, the geological the geological nature of the terrain will help in deciding the number of boreholes or trial pits. Okay, like this, the number of boreholes are mentioned in the IS code. Okay, and other than that, Mr. Rishabh Agarwal has asked for the PPTs for the lecture, so I have like informed the concerned authority for this. Okay, as soon as I get something, I will let you know that whether the PPTs are available. But before that, I will suggest you that during the video lectures only you note down everything so that you can do the assignments properly. Okay, and till if I get any information regarding the PPTs, I will let you know. Okay, and till then I will suggest you go through the video lectures during the session only, or if you have any doubts, you note down everything that we have. Okay, and using that you can do the assignments. Okay, and any other questions were there? I guess no. If any questions will be there on the discussion forum, I will reply to that. Okay, so and that's it for today's session. Okay, I don't think so. We'll meet next Monday. And I apologize that I missed the recording that I have done on the discussion. I lost that, so that's why I am recording this again. Okay, so thank you. We'll meet next Monday on at 6 o'clock. Okay, thank you.